Welcome to Essential Leadership Skills and Techniques, a discussion with TEDx and TED Talk speakers. Join our Director of Operations and our guest, Dr. Chaz. Dr. Chaz Austin works with private clients around the world and has taught free courses that prepare people to self-market for the gig economy for Los Angeles Pierce College since 2017. TEDx speaker, he also teaches 3 courses he designed at the Beacon House Association of San Pedro. Creating a career plan, succeeding in a new job, transitioning out of you. His most recent book, which is used as the textbook in his courses, is 101 Ways to Find Work and Keep Finding Work for the Rest of Your Career. He holds a doctorate in organizational leadership from Pepperdine University.
This is a Touchstone Publishers presentation, your trusted source of leadership knowledge.
Well, good morning. Good morning. That's what we say, no matter what time of day it is. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
I appreciate you spending this morning, even though it's afternoon for both you and me in reality. Just have more energy in the morning, so that's how we're going to proceed.
I like that.
I want to thank you very much for spending the time with me today.
My pleasure.
I do want to, of course, dissect and talk about your TEDx speech, but I will also want to start off with the question that's on the screen right now. If you can share with us what is unique, powerful, different, and kind of like a need to know about either yourself, your organization, or your TEDx talk. Can you share a little bit about that?
Good question. What's unique about me? My brand, which is what I teach people. I teach people about branding, and essentially I teach them to self-market into the gig economy. My LinkedIn headline, and I'm primarily use LinkedIn for social media because that's where my audience lives, is training people to self-market for the gig economy. So that's what my talk is about. That really what I do is recontextualize for people how they navigate what is now the gig economy, the 21st century workplace. Unfortunately, it's unique and revolutionary. I wish it were not, but we're still training people for the 20th century. Resumes, cover letters. Necessary but insufficient. It's about building relationships, but it's 3 things. As I describe in the TEDx talk, it's defining, articulating, where's my hand? Defining, articulating, and selling your brand. So everyone's in sales, like it or not. And it's not what we were trained to do. It's a new skill set, but we learned how to use this thing. Yes. Smartphones have only been around. The iPhone was introduced in 2007, so 14 years approximately. We learned how to use that. We can learn how to self-market. And I have no commitment to people liking it. It's just a necessary skill in the gig economy, which is what we're in. And that's what the TEDx talk is about.
And that is different. And even though leaders might be saying, well, wait a minute, I don't want my employees taking a gig job. They're going to.
You don't really have a choice.
Yeah.
Corporate loyalty is dead for the most part. And I don't fault companies for that. If you're running a company, you're trying to cut your labor costs, which are your biggest costs. So anything you can do to lower those costs, be it hiring people who are younger, hiring people from out of the country who work cheaper, getting a robot in to do someone else's job, that's what you're going to do, because their primary responsibility is to their shareholders, unfortunately, not to their workers. So this is how you protect yourself, rather than what our parents and grandparents, if they were lucky, got to do, which is have the one employer that took care of them their whole life, and they ended with a gold watch and possibly health care for life and a pension and so on. That's gone away. So you have to protect yourself. So it's learning how to always market yourself and not think in terms of jobs, but think in terms of work and finding clients.
Yeah. So we're going to dig deep into that, and we're going to really pull that TEDx talk apart and see what we can get out to everybody, get them more in alignment with that than what they have been. But I want to start off with the area of your journey to your TEDx. From the time you conceived of this ideal that is worth sharing to the time you walked up on the stage, can you talk to us about that journey? I mean, kind of your backstory. Let us know a little bit about that.
I have to go back to LinkedIn again as the genesis of this. I have built a network of more than 31,000 followers at this point. And I was contacted a year and a half ago by Mount San Jacinto College in Southern California. They found me because the gig economy is such a hot topic, and that's what my headline says. They found me and said, would you like to do a TED Talk? Now, I'd already done 3 courses that I wrote and delivered for LinkedIn Learning, so that was an opportunity to see me on camera. So this guy could, do a TEDx talk and do it well, presumably. So they contacted me and said, you have about 15 or 20 minutes to talk about whatever you want, obviously the gig economy and possibilities. And I structured it, wrote it. Got someone to read it, and that's something, if we're going to give tips to the folks that are watching the podcast, you want another set of eyes on it. You may think you're a brilliant writer. So I actually use my wife in this case as my editor, who's brilliant and very critical in the best way. And I read it to her, I delivered it to her in our home, and she said, you need to cut out this whole section. Excuse me, this is gold. This is nothing has been written this well since Shakespeare. No, dear, you have to cut out this section. It's irrelevant to the topic and it takes you off purpose. So I did that. And then I was still over my time limit. So I had to cut some more. So you need that second set of eyes and ears on your work. That's a recommendation I give to everyone. And you want to deliver it out loud, because very important. I've taught writing a great deal in my career as a college professor. Reading it is not the same as reading it aloud. You need to read it aloud and see how it plays. That's very important. So Mount San Jacinto, it was during the pandemic. They had me come out to the studios, hour drive from where I live, and I delivered it. And apparently it worked. I've gotten a lot of wonderful comments, and here I am with you.
I have a question for you, because cutting your talk down to be less than 18 minutes, how difficult was it on a scale of 1 to 10?
Another tip, do it in sections. This is for anyone who's going to be doing a TED Talk, TEDx talk. Do it in sections. So I mapped out, if I have approximately 15 minutes, and I've done a lot of public speaking, so I have some sense of how many words that entails. As I recall, 3,000 words maybe. Yeah. So I did it in sections. These are the sections I want to talk about. These are the most important things if I'm going to convey something to an audience that has a limited amount of time. And mine came in at just under 17 minutes, which was right on target. So I did the sections. So I think there were 6 sections. And then I wrote each section. And then I read them aloud and timed them. Yes. And so it was not particularly difficult. I overwrote, as it turned out. That's why I had my wife listen and say, no, this whole section has to get out of here. But each section was about 2 to 3 minutes, and it came into about 17.
Okay, so it's kind of easy for you then. So you probably give it like a 2 or 3 on the scale, because it's kind of easy because you're used to doing it. You had a formula.
Yeah, yeah.
Something else you mentioned that I'm starting to really realize, there's a difference, 2 types of TEDx speakers. The ones that are going to fill up the walls with rejection letters, and the ones who are highly niched that get invited. You fell in that category of being niched and getting invited, or had the topic that people wanted to hear, or this group wanted to hear, and getting invited.
Let me say something that may go against the stream. The TEDx talk for me was a vanity project. There was no revenue generated from that.
Never is.
Yeah. So for me, my LinkedIn Learning courses, which are 3 hours of material, over 3 hours of material in total, those generate royalties for me every month. Okay. That's what I was interested in. My attitude was, if someone comes to me for a TEDx talk, not a TED talk, I'm never going to be that famous, but a TEDx talk, if someone comes to me, fine. What the heck? It'll be fun. It's an ego project. It's a vanity project. It's an opportunity for me to state my philosophy about education and career training. If it doesn't happen, that's fine too. When Mount San Jacinto found me, it's like, that's great. I never pursued it because I have the LinkedIn Learning courses. But it was a fun thing to do and got me here to talking with you and helping other people to do this in the future.
So that's fantastic. That's fantastic. I think you shared some good advice there for everyone. Let's go ahead and dive into your TEDx. There's a couple things that hit me that I want to ask you about and have you maybe explain this to me. In the gig economy, we're always, well, I won't say the gig economy because I don't really know that, but we're taught when we're running our companies to go to the niches, to avoid trying to be everything for everybody, but go to your niche, specialize in your niche. But you talked about this idea of multiple income streams approach. A little bit different, but I assume it is a little bit different because we're talking about the gig. Can you go into detail for us a little bit on that?
Yeah. And again, we're discussing the talk. People have to watch the talk. It's only 17 minutes of your time to get a sense of that. But let me try to convey that. That's why we have it
going on the bottom of the screen for a little bit longer so everybody they can see the URL to go to it.
If you look at your brand, well, let me back up. Imagine a wagon wheel. Okay. The hub of the wheel is your brand. And when I work with either private clients or students, which I do all over the world, what's the brand? How do we define that? And that's where I help people because they don't really know what their brand is, nor have they ever been taught that they were a brand or had to create one. So it's brand new for them. So I have them think in a different way. We determine what the brand is. That's the first step. The spokes coming out of the wheel are all the different ways they can generate revenue based on the brand. So there's no side gigs like working at Starbucks. You don't have to do that. But let's say your brand is graphic designer. So you can teach graphic design, you can do freelance projects, you can start your own graphic design firm. You do that, you have multiple clients, multiple sources of income. That's the new way to think of things. It's the multiple income streams approach. My students call it the wheel. This protects you from the old model. Imagine the old model, you have one client, which is the company that you work for. When they lay you off, you have no money coming in, you're unemployed. With the multiple income streams approach, with the wheel, as it's called, if you lose a client, you're okay. You can get another client. You have money coming in from different sources. And that keeps you going in the gig economy because you can't count on that one company keeping you on for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. I just picked up the new client yesterday. She's had 10 jobs and lost every one of them. So you work your little fanny off, and then you get laid off for reasons having nothing to do with your performance. And that's not a way to live your life because you have steady bills and responsibilities. You need the money coming in. So this way, it's coming in from a multitude of ways, multitude of clients, and you're always okay. You're always working. You've always got money coming in. You're never unemployed.
So this multiple stream of income, as focusing more on the number of clients you have, making sure you have more than one client, make sure you have plenty of clients. So if one drops off, you're not losing place. It's not really saying multiple niches,
No, it's not multiple niches. It's multiple clients. And what you do is expand the brand. Yes. So I'm a poster child for this stuff. One of my sources of income was teaching. Yes, college professor. I was doing that before I had a doctorate, but I wanted to broaden my reach and attract potential new clients. So I got a doctorate, and that allowed me to teach at the university level, more income streams. So you have the core brand, and you're always adding to it. You're always upskilling, more education, more things you know. If you work in creative arts or IT, you're increasing the different programs you can use so that you can attract more. Can you do that? Yes, I can do that now too. Great. Now we can hire you for that. So you're always making your brand better and more attractive to your target audience, which allows you more income and more clients.
You know, you talked about that in your TED Talk, but that also kind of feels like it works with your course, creating a career plan. Those are kind of the same or different? It feels like it's the same.
No, kind of the same. All my work ties together. Yes, it's holistic. So I think they are very similar, actually.
Yeah, cool. Absolutely cool. Now, here's a concept you brought up in TEDx, and I loved it because we use it different ways, but I like the way you used it. Let me get it up on the screen for those to see it, but we're talking about the SWOT.
Yes.
So let's talk about that. Give us a definition
I've
of
just,
that.
I actually picked up two new clients yesterday, and both of them I sent their SWOT analysis to with instructions. SWOT is a business, is used for businesses. It stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
But you're not using weaknesses, are you? You use something different for weakness.
Yes, I changed it from I was going to say that I would change it from weakness to what's missing. Yes, so it's 4 boxes. On the top is your strengths, and then what's missing. That's you. On the bottom are the market conditions, opportunities, and threats. So I have both these clients, one of whom I'm meeting with, I think, Thursday, and one next week in person finally. I said, fill out the strengths section, and I send them instructions. Strengths does not mean the soft skills. Strengths means, because this is a business construct, it's used by businesses, but my assertion is everyone's a business now since they're working for themselves rather than Big Daddy. That the strengths are the things that people will pay for. They're not going to pay for, I'm a good team player and I work hard and I work well independently and I'm easy to get along with. Those are good things to have, but companies are not going to pay for that. Individuals are not going to pay for that. They're going to pay for, these are the languages I speak, this is the experience I have, these are the accomplishments I have, this is the kind of money I've generated or saved for past clients. These are the software programs I know. This is what I can do for you to impact your bottom line. So you need to think like a business person, not a soldier in a corporation. So that's what they're going to work on. And what I find over and over again, people, because they're not trained to self-market, always underestimate themselves. I see things, that's my job. I see things that they have, strengths they have that they hadn't even noticed before. And that's what we build on. So that's the strengths part. The what's missing part, again, back to me as an example, what was missing in terms of my teaching at the university level and increasing my revenue was I didn't have a doctorate. So it was a what's missing, and it moved to the strength. So you look at what's missing, and then you move it to the strengths if you possibly can. The SWOT I find enormously useful because it's either on paper or a computer screen. There's no emotion, there's no drama about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's the top part.
Do me a favor before we go on the bottom part. Give me a good example of working through the strengths. I know if you asked me to sit down and write down my strengths, if I wasn't in this type of work, I would struggle with it. But give me a good example of how I would create that strength list. I think it's our attitude that we discount what we've done good. But help us out with that.
I'll get your resume first, which is a good starting point. And I see what you've done and what I look for, kind of like an algorithm looks. I look for what have you accomplished? Okay, what languages do you speak? It may be hidden. It may not even be in the resume. So that's when we meet and I ask face to face, have you done this? Have you done that? Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. Yes, I have. Yes. And then the more we talk, the better I get to know someone, the more I work with them, the better sense I have of what it is they offer and what they've done. People are very shy about their past accomplishments. Oh, no big deal. Yeah, it is a big deal to a potential employer, to a potential client. Yes. So we keep teasing it out and it becomes more and more robust.
Okay, see, I can track with that. So as you bring it out, just starting out with the resume, I guess that's a good spot to start. Because you're saying it shouldn't be the soft skills. I'm a great leader.
That's something to talk about in an interview, perhaps.
Okay.
Actually, more successful if you were referred by someone who can speak to that. Because if I interview with you, Glenn, for example, and I say I'm a terrific leader, do you have any hard evidence of that?
Yeah.
Or do I just trust whatever you're advertising here? So I can give you some examples. What would be most useful is if we have a colleague in common who can speak to that and say, this guy's a great leader. Speaking of the leadership part, very often people tout themselves as great leaders, but it doesn't fit with the job they're applying for. They don't need a leader, they need a soldier. Yeah. So keep your leadership skills in the background. Once you get in there, then you can start talking about it. But conform what it is you do to what they need, not this. Well, I'm sorry, we're not looking for a leader. Yeah, it's not the job. Don't do that. Okay. What resume is same thing. They need to conform to what the job is. All an employer or a client is interested in is what you can do for me. Yes, I'm not interested in everything else you've done. For example, I played drums for 15 years, which I now bring up just as an example of how this is totally irrelevant to what we're talking about. However, if I were to say apply to teach music, which I've done at a college, and I would be pitching a department chair in the music department, that would be of interest to them. So that's marketing, is understanding first, what does the target audience need? What skill sets do you have that they can use to improve their business? That's the whole thrust. That's the whole idea. It's a context shift. Yes, you have a very strong sense. Really, this is what I could have done, and this is what I can do for you.
That cleans that up a whole lot.
Good.
Because it takes it out of the emotional realm. Because when you say I'm a leader, you don't have anything to back that up to prove it. I'm a great leader. On what metrics are you measuring that on? It cleans it up a whole lot.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
If I started pitching, I played drums for 15 years. So what? The people that this is targeted to, do you all care? Could I show of hands? Oh, no one's raising their hands. That's not what they came for.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They came for tips on leadership and TEDx. Yes. So I'm looking at the target market. A wonderful way to think of this, it's like attire. Yeah. How I'm dressed to do this podcast with you, appropriate, I think. I would not wear this to a wedding, underdressed. Right. Yeah. If I'm playing softball, I would not wear this for softball. Yeah. I'd wear a t-shirt and a baseball cap. It's not good or bad. It's a question of what works for that particular environment and that particular circumstance. Yes. So I joke with my clients. I say, don't put everything on the resume. That's for confession. You want to go to confession? Go see the priest. Yes. Go into confessional, see the priest. An employer's not interested. That's being marketing driven and having a marketing sensibility. They're only interested in what you can do for them. Everything else you can leave out. Doesn't matter. It's your version of I played the drums for 15 years. They don't care. Don't mention it.
It doesn't make any difference at all. I want to ask you about the bottom two, because to me, when you're still confused, so you get to coach me here. Opportunity and threat seems to be the same.
No. Good point. This is the marketplace, which will override everything else. Yes, I don't care how good you are. If companies aren't hiring, don't bother. So you have to know this. So the first place I tell people to go is BLS.gov, Bureau of Labor Statistics, part of the federal government. They constantly update data about industries, where they're going, are they growing, are they shrinking? In which parts of the country are they growing? What types of jobs are they hiring? What's the median income? Yeah, what can you expect to make? Yes, so we have to start that before we're going to work on your building a brand. Because if you're going to build a brand as a coal miner, they're not hiring. That industry is shrinking. Go somewhere else. Don't do that. Wrong direction. So you may like coal mining, so good. So do it as a hobby, but it's not going to be what I call a monetizable passion. We have to match your passion, but it needs to be monetizable to the marketplace. Yes. So I'll keep going back to me because I think it resonates for people. I've gone through this myself. I got my doctorate too late in life to get tenure as a professor. If I'd done it, hindsight's our only perfect science. If I'd done it in my 20s, Isn't that a great line?
Yeah.
Not mine. If I'd done it in my 20s, by now I'd be retired. Yes, with a pension and all that from a university. If I'd gone and moved to Indiana or somewhere in the Midwest where they have more needs of professors perhaps, but I didn't do that. So that was not a viable journey for me in terms of the marketplace. I had to look at that. What are the opportunities? Opportunities are very limited. The threats are tenure's going away. They have too many people who have doctorates who want to be professors. So that becomes a threat. It is two sides of the same coin in a sense. Okay.
Well,
So
yeah.
you could look at, for example, opportunities if you're a nurse or you're going to be a nurse, you're getting your RN. Opportunities, they need nurses badly. The threats are there's a lot of competition. So you have to be smart and look at, well, if I move to Atlanta because they have a lot of opportunities, but not a lot of potential nurses, that's where I need to go. You go where the work is.
So could we say the opportunity is what's available, the threat is what may not be available?
You could say it that way, yes. You could say it, but everybody has to look into the future because so much robotics, AI is replacing so many workers. You have to look at it. Let's say the opportunities we'll just make it up. The opportunities in nursing are great. They do need nurses. That's a fact. Okay. But let's say they're now developing robots and you've done some research on it to learn that in 5 years, they'll have robots who can do nursing and they won't need nurses anymore. You need to know that.
No, I can tell you personally, they're getting real close to that. I mean, just personally.
That's never going to happen for nursing, but it is going to threaten, robotics is going to threaten certain industries. So let's say you want to be a lawyer, the opportunities are, yes, you can get a job as a lawyer, but the threats are you're probably going to make less because you'll be a paralegal. And in a few years, they'll have computers to do the work you'd been hired for. So you have to decide.
Coach, man, I just want to have you coach and get your opinion on this. You said it never can happen for nurses. I'm not saying nurses will be replaced, but I'm saying they will be reduced because you can go to the hospital now and have the AI machine, have the machines hook you up to the machines, so the nurses have to hook you up, but then they don't have to come in your room and check on you every 2 hours.
Yep.
Less overnight people because all that information is being put together through the AI. The machine knows, okay, wait a minute, his blood is up a little bit, his oxygen rate's down. Let's get a hold of the doctor, have the doctor. No, machines know that.
Yes, well, with robotics, your point is well taken. It may be a question of time. So it's an opportunity now. In 5 years, it's a threat.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay. Perfect. I kind of get that. So now, again, though, this is a system. So I'm going to ask you just to kind of go through it again. We went top quadrant, which is for you. Bottom quadrant is for the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
When we're looking at the gig economy, saying, okay, we're going to go in the marketplace, what do you want these people to look at first? Do you want them to look at the top quadrant first, just in the order, or do they look at the bottom quadrant first?
You start with the strengths, okay? Because what I need to build up in my clients is a sense of their own value in the marketplace, not as human beings, in the marketplace. I'm not a life coach. I don't do that. Yeah, in the marketplace, business. Yes. So we start with that, and then we grow that. Yeah. And we talk about what their goals might be in terms of their career. Great. So you want to do X, you need a degree. You want to do Y, you need a certificate. Yes. Whatever it happens to be, are you willing to take what you now see as missing into the strengths part? Are you willing to do that? And you may not. And that's a fine time to say, you know what? I didn't realize it would be this hard and take this much time and work. I'm not doing this. Fine. Pick something else. Okay. Then we start working on the marketplace. Okay, so you think you want to do X kind of job. Yes, let's see what's going on in the marketplace. Is this viable? Okay, is it something you can pursue as a career? Is it something you can build a business from and get clients for or not? Yes, so it's a whole system. And what I do when I teach classes, I have all my students do a SWOT analysis of themselves. And then toward the end of the course, they all go up to the whiteboard and each one in turn does their SWOT analysis on the whiteboard, and the whole group of students, okay, the whole class works together, a brainstorming exercise to help them see things they hadn't seen before. It's critical thinking. Like, hey, did you think of that? Because I always tell them, I'm not the source of all knowledge here. Don't do this old professor stuff nonsense where, open ahead, pour in information. It doesn't work like that. You people are smart, and you started to develop a marketing sensibility so you can help your fellow students, and they can see things I didn't see and they didn't see, like, oh, wow, that's a great idea. Then they'll also give them help in terms of networking. Like, I didn't know you could do that. I have somebody you should meet, sort of thing. So it's a collaborative effort.
Okay. So to move a little bit away from the self, because that's first, but this marketing thing, this is where you're going to have to coach me a little bit. Marketing, you're saying look for what the opportunity is. But what if my strengths don't match the current market? So let's say I'm a better at something else, but it's not part of the current market. It may change in a year or 2 or 30 days. I may be the catalyst that causes it to change. Talk to me about that.
Good question. Let's say you're a financial analyst. Let's say that's your brand, but what's missing is you don't have a lot of experience with certain software programs that are now the new thing in doing financial analysis. Yes, so that's what's missing. So you've done your studies on the bottom part of the SWOT analysis to see where the market's going, and there's going to be a real need for these software programs. So you need, in order to be competitive in the marketplace as a financial advisor coming into the next decade, you need to learn these. Yeah, in order to be competitive, you cannot compete unless you know those things. Like that. Okay.
Yep. Okay, I track. That makes sense. Sense.
Well, so by the end of our discussion, you'll have a new job. That's what we're working on.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people end up doing. Yeah, and it's going to be necessary. You got to. I don't know if you agree or not, but in the gig and market, I think you have to be flexible.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And you have to be responsive to the marketplace. What do people need? What do they want? And upskill constantly. You're constantly learning, constantly developing new things. I was going to say tricks, but they're not tricks. New things that you can deliver to your clients. We need this. I can do that. Do you know this? If you're a graphic designer, you know Illustrator? Yes. How about Maya? Do you know that? No, I don't. Well, because we're looking for somebody who does Maya. Oh, bing, you need to learn Maya because that's what they'll pay for. Real simple. My doctorate. We'll talk to you. We'll hire you to teach if you have a doctorate. I'm getting a doctorate. That's good. And I just finished 2 courses on teaching online. I got 2 badges for teaching online because that's the way education's going. I don't like it. I would prefer to teach in person, but I have to go with the flow. That's why I have the 3 LinkedIn learning courses, because a lot of people learn virtually. Right. That I like teaching in person and having that collaboration. That's nice, but that's not the way the marketplace is going. So I have to be prepared to do that. That's why I got the 2 badges, so that I can teach using a program called Canvas, which I had to learn online. Don't have to like it, just have to do it. If, as I say, I'm addicted to eating. So
eating, breathing, having some water, maybe an adult breath, on things that cost money.
Yes. Yes.
I want to ask you to kind of, I don't know, get a little bit more information. Your TEDx was good. You've been writing for different people, but what are you doing right now to help people? How are you helping people now?
Wow. I have a wonderful career. It's taken me years to get there, and mistakes and tangents and so on. Okay, that's what I needed to get to where I am. But what my career is about helping people. People are so lost and so frightened about what they do with their careers. What do I do now? I can't find a job. I'm too old. I'm not trained enough. They don't even know the right questions to ask. So both in terms of the courses I teach ongoingly for Pierce College and Beacon House of San Pedro, and with my private clients and with the people I work with on LinkedIn all over the world. I hear this over and over again. If you look at my LinkedIn profile, I get positive comments from people. You really helped me see something I didn't see before. This was really helpful to me. I'm about to leave my job, and you have a video on how to leave a job, and that was really helpful to me. So I constantly help people to navigate it's a brand new arena. No one ever thought we'd be here, where
Right.
you couldn't count on the old tricks, the old formula, rather. Okay, I have an education and I know how to interview and I have a good resume. Give me a job. Well, the jobs aren't there, so people are flipped out. Like, what do I do now? I did all the right things. I had the right formula, but the way I put it is they move the goalposts, and no one told us.
Yes.
So it's helping people understand how things have changed. Number one, very upsetting. People hate it. Okay. They don't want to know this. Yeah. And then giving them a new strategy and a set of behaviors so that they can navigate and not only survive, but be successful for the rest of their lives as long as they work. And it means self-marketing, which they also hate. I'm sorry. That's what you have to do.
Talk to me, though, about your course, Creating a Career Plan. Talk to me about that. I put it up on there. There's the URL. That'll be in the description as well. But tell me about that.
That's the first of the 3 courses on LinkedIn Learning, and it lays out everything I've been talking about, how to recontextualize, re-envision what it is you're going to do with your career. And shifting the focus from I have to find a job and please an employer to I have a good sense of what it is I offer and who my target market is and how to talk to them. I'm going to learn how to network. I'm going to learn how to use social media. I'm going to up my skills and the things I need to know in order to get work and start behaving in a whole different way, which I never expected. There is enormous resistance to this. People say, I'm a chemist. And I say, and you're in sales. Well, I'm a financial analyst and you're in sales. Everyone's in sales. No one wants to do it. I did not go to the University of Selling. Yes, I went to Arizona State and I have a degree in chemistry. Sorry, you're also in sales. So it's interesting because one of the things I've learned to do to upskill and broaden what I offer to my audience or audiences is that people learn in different ways. Yes, some visually, some through hearing, some through kinesthetic learning. Yes, so the LinkedIn Learning courses, not my favorite way to teach, but a lot of people and all over the world love the courses. That's what they need. They don't have the back and forth. It's me talking, but it's of enormous value to them. I have 2 books I've written. Some people like to read about it. I actually had a student in one course. He sat there and listened, but he read my entire textbook during the course because that's the way he processes information. So this is a way for some people to absorb the information. And I've had a number of people over the years come to me and say, I saw your LinkedIn Learning course. Can we do one-on-one coaching now? They need that. Where others say, this is great, this really helped me, this is sufficient.
Wow. Okay. Cool. So it kind of gives you a good pathway through. So
Yeah.
if that's the second course being succeeding in a new job, tell me that. Tell me about that one.
I think the intro says, congratulations, you got a new job. And now the work begins. And it doesn't begin the day you start the job. It begins the day that you accept the offer. And it's about developing relationships and understanding the culture and learning to fit in and learning who does what. I have a student who just got a job, and I said, call them and ask them if you could come in and just shadow and say hello to people. That's very unusual. But it says that you're really interested and that you want to begin the process of being part of the team and figuring out who does what and how you can help them now. Why do you have to wait till next Monday? Yeah, I think they'll appreciate the fact that you're ambitious that way and are interested in really being part of that company, that culture, that organization. So it's about developing relationships with people and figuring out who does what, where the power lies, how you get things to happen. Because it's not according to the org chart necessarily. You have to understand how does it. This is the most important thing you can do for anyone when they start a job. How does it work around here? Okay, how does it work? Well, it says you're supposed to do this, but actually, if you do that. When I've started at jobs in the past where someone walked me around and said, you need to know this person and this person. This person is in the way, so you want to avoid them. Unfortunately, companies don't train you. They throw you in, and if you hit a landmine, your fault. They don't tell you even where the landmines are. What you need is develop relationships with people who can guide you through that and tell you how to get things to happen, how to produce results.
Yes, in other words, how to get things, like I said, results. How to get things out of the way, learn the things, and get the results.
Yeah.
Tell me about the third one that you put together, transitioning out of your job. So we got the job, but now we had to transition out of a couple here and there.
I've actually had people from overseas, a number of people, saying, I'm about to leave my job, and this really helped me on how to do this. Work is fluid now. People move around, different companies, different jobs. They do freelance, they start their own firm, whatever. You don't want to make enemies if you possibly can. Yes? So you do this, you transition out in such a way that everyone feels whole, that you give them enough notice, that you perhaps train your successor, that you stay in touch with them, because former bosses and co-workers become colleagues. And if you've left as an upstanding person and done it professionally, suddenly one of your colleagues 6 months later calls and says, hey, I just started my own firm and I'd like you to join me. Yeah. So it's kind of an art of learning to develop the relationships and keep them going. My attitude is, some of the jobs I've had in my life in the past, the Karma Squad said, this isn't about the job, it's about the people you're going to meet. And those while the job may not last, the relationships will. I've started having coffees with colleagues of mine I haven't seen in over a year since the lockdown. And these are people I worked with 7 years ago, and we're still colleagues, and we still help each other, and we're still a resource for each other. And that's a wonderful thing to have. And very often you want to look at the job as that you've developed relationships with people, professional relationships that are going to go on and on and on.
And if you look at it like that, the transitioning out should be pretty smooth.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, tell me, so you told me about these, and I think I do know the answer, but for the audience, how do I get these classes into my knowledge base? How do I take these classes?
Well, if that's how you learn, honestly, it's not how I learn. It's telling one of myself. I've written and delivered these courses. And I did the same thing with these courses I did with the TEDx talk. I actually went onto the roof of my building and read them aloud to the air, spoke to the air, and saw what worked and what didn't. And it's enormously effective for people. So if that's how you learn, you like learning online, which millions of people do, take the 3 courses. If you want to read about it, you have my 2 books. If you're based in the Los Angeles area, I've been teaching free courses through the adult education program at Los Angeles Pierce College for over 4 years. More than 1,000 students have gone through them. And you can contact me. You're welcome to register for them. If you need further help, I can work with you one-on-one, either in person or via Zoom, all over the world. And I've worked really people all over the world. It's the same conversation. If you're looking for a job, or you need to know how to interview, or what to say, or do I call them back, or how do I negotiate the money, and so on. Obviously, there are changes in terms of culture. I can't speak to how it works in France necessarily, but many of the things can be generalized and work. So you can access my work in all these different ways, so that I can help.
Tell us about your books.
The books. The first book it's a hybrid in a sense, because it explains my basic philosophy in the first part. In the second part, it lays out what's in my doctoral dissertation, which is a model for integrating a career development course program into a college curriculum. I want to start training people how to do this in college. But the key word is mandatory, unless it's a mandatory program and not just one-off course in senior year, but a mandatory program that goes through starting freshman year. It's not going to work. That's why I've been successful at Pierce and at Beacon House, because these are mandatory programs. People have, again, enormous resistance. It's very frightening and very confronting. Yeah. But if it's mandatory, they start to get used to it. They start to understand it. They start to understand how to brand and network and market and so on. So that's the second part of the book, which is a distillation of what the dissertation was about. And it lays out in detail every semester in a college student's life that they have these self-marketing courses along with whatever their major happens to be. Because we've done an enormous disservice to college students for decades, where they come out of school, they either have no idea how to get work or they don't know what they want to do. And to my mind, and my goal is, as I say in the TEDx talk, is to have this be standard in every college and university in this country. That's what I'm looking at. And that's what I'm going for, is connecting with the movers and shakers, the power players, the decision makers who can say, yes, we want to do this here. That's the first book. The second book, which was I wrote for Cengage, one of the leading educational publishers, that's 101 ways, and smart people, the way they set it up, where it is 101 small sections about all the things you want to do while you're looking for jobs, including when you get a little crazy and you've gotten a lot of rejection, including how do I stay sane when I'm alone, how do I interview, what do I say, so on and so forth. So we use the second book as the textbook in my courses.
Cool. Now, we're bumped up against time a little bit here, so I want to be respectful for your time and all the listeners' time. So I have one final question for you. And that question simply is, what question should I have asked you that I did not ask you?
Oh, boy.
I didn't say it's going to be an easy question.
Oh, man. Wow. Well, my first thought is you pretty much covered it. If we had another 3 or 4 hours, I could probably still talk about this whole concept. Perhaps why people are so resistant and why this work is so difficult. And I think we did touch on it somewhat, but let me expand. Let's say you had a follow-up question about this. Yeah. People have to face a new world of work, a new way to be, a new way to behave. They have to face the idea of having to market themselves and be social and be personable, and they don't like it and they don't want to. I have a new student I just worked with. He said, I'm really shy. I'm not good at talking to people. Well, it's important that you be good at talking to people, because people hire people who can do the job and they like. So that they need to warm up to you. So my first suggestion to him was take an acting class or an improv class to push out of yourself. Yes, that we can overcome whatever it is that's in the way. If the motivation is strong enough, if you want it badly enough, I find this for everyone, you're going to do whatever it takes. So if your passion is creative director in an advertising agency, for example, or setting up your own advertising agency, you will do what you have to do. You'll get whatever degrees, you'll learn whatever you need to learn, okay? You'll make the connections, you'll take the acting class, you'll push through, because that's strong enough. And needless to say, you've done your research on the bottom of the SWOT chart, and you know that's a viable thing that can happen, and you can do this. Again, you want it badly enough, you'll do what it takes. This is true for everyone. But it has to be, again, monetizable and something that's going to last for a few years, hopefully, because the market conditions are going to allow that.
You know, I got to tell you that your advice about taking the improv or acting class, it kind of hit me kind of shocking but it shouldn't be, because I know to do what I do. I took an improv class. By the way, if anybody lives in the Denver, Colorado area and they want a great improv teacher, I have one for you. But just the idea of that improv, because it stretches you, it makes you more flexible, it makes you see the opportunities a bit better.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think that's a great point. Dr. Chaz, I got to absolutely thank you for taking the time. I know we went a bit over the time that you had allotted today, but I appreciate you taking the time, discussing and sharing this very important thing, because gig economy is becoming larger and larger, and I think a lot of people need help in that area. So I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about it.
My pleasure, Glenn. Thank you for the opportunity, and I hope this was of value to your viewers.
I'm sure it is. Absolutely sure it is.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you for connecting with us here at Touchstone Publishers. Please join our group Essential Leadership Skills and share your leadership knowledge with us all.